What's up gamers, my name's Patty Cake, and in the past I've made several videos about making money in old school RuneScape. In the past we've covered the early game several times, the mid game, which is fairly contentious, and in this video I want to be focusing on the sweatiest of the end game moneymakers. I'm not going to be discussing the ethics of account services or anything like that, so we're going to be talking strictly about just standard in-game moneymakers. That being said, if you do want to discuss the ethics of account services, please go at each other down in the comment section below. Number 1. Alright, first up on our list, maybe a little bit of controversial. I actually want to put this in my mid-game video, but I think it's more of an end-game content due to the avoiding PKers. Of course, we are talking about Venonatus. On the wiki, it says that this is roughly 6 mil per hour. I think last week or 2 weeks ago it was like 9 mil an hour, so it's rapidly decreasing as the price of the Void Waker also rapidly decreases. However, it is still great money coming in at 6 mil per hour. For the gear setup, you're definitely going to want the Ursine Chain Mace or an equivalent, just whatever is your best possible DPS. Along with the rest of your gear, you want to make sure that you have 4 items that you can protect that are going to be your best DPS. You're going to need darts for the spiderlings and just set up your potions accordingly. You're definitely going to need a stamina as the web drained stamina. Make sure that you switch PK skull prevention on if you don't want to skull up. And then for teleporting there, we are going to be using the Anacarl teleport. Once you're here, if you've killed Venonatus before, you can peek and see if there's anybody else in there. We're gonna enter in praying melee against the boss and just smacking them with the chain mace. When spiderlings appear, equip your darts, kill them off, and then right back on the boss. When he spawns a web, make sure that you get out of web range. That is going to drain all of your things, just all of them, and it can be quite devastating. Easy enough, and the loot is pretty decent. That one's not that great, but believe me, the average loot's pretty good, and the items that we are after are even better. Oops. So hopefully you don't die like me, and you're able to get your hands on some of these. So what you're after here are the Fangs of Venonatus coming in at 1.3 mil, the Dragon Pickaxe, which is down bad at 1.7, and then the Void Waker Gem at 45 mil. Also dropped is the Treasonous Ring and the Dragon 2H. While not worth much, they were both collection log slots. Number 2. The Chambers of Zerk. Honestly, you're not going to find this on many money-making guides, nor is it the tippy top of the money-making list. Regardless, the Chambers of Zerk is an endgame encounter, especially with the ways that you can utilize certain mechanics to maximize your GP per hour. We're talking scaling with alts, we're talking scouting with alts while doing the raid, and we're talking about challenge mode Chambers of Zerk, which are rewarding in and of their own right. I am not going to make an entire Chambers guide in the middle of this. That would be ridiculous. There's tons of great Chambers of Zerk guides already made. Find 1, find 2, find 3 that work for you and follow those. This is just going to be me briefly talking about a few of the methods to boost your GP per hour. The most traditional use of alts that I can think of is scaling up the raid. This gives all the monsters more HP for you to do damage to, which gives you more points. And without going too far into it, a lot of the methods for getting points within a raid are capped, and raising the amount of people in the raid itself raises that cap, allowing you to get more points from these activities. Prep alts allow you to have potions and supplies prepared while you and your team complete the rest of the raid. You can use your alt like a thrall to do some extra DPS. So much of the time dedicated to doing chambers is scouting to find a good raid to do, so while you're doing the raid, you can also scout on the outside on an alternate account to find a raid to go right into once the current one is over. Challenge mode Cox gives you a ton of points. It's a literal purple factory. If you complete the raid on time, you're also given a bonus of 5,000 points per player. As it stands right now, Cox is roughly 5 mil an hour. I think just looking at the wiki that you could probably push this higher using the alted methods and by doing challenge mode raids, but this is greater than it has been in a very long time. Due to the popularity of other content like the Tombs of the Masket, the Chamber of Zerk's rares are at an all-time premium. Feast your eyes on these. The 2 prayer scrolls, which make up the majority of your purples, are way up from where they were this time last year. And if we look over to the Ancestral and the Twisted Bow, they are at an all-time high. If you go to the wiki and look at the graphs, they're literally just up and to the right. Once you get to the end game, money isn't everything, and Challenge Mode Chamber of Zerk offers two super sick uniques, which are the Twisted Ancestral Color Kit and the Metamorphic Dust, which allows you to change your omelet into any of the bosses from the Chambers of Zerk. While neither have any monetary value, who doesn't love a good flex? Number 3. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and back to the content. The Theater of Blood. The Theater of Blood is hands down my favorite piece of content in old school RuneScape, and it just happens to be one of the top moneymakers in the game as well. The wiki currently has the Theater of Blood at 7.2 mil per hour, and that's saying that you're completing about 3-mans per hour. I don't really have any like crazy tips or tricks to this, just get better at the content. This is assuming 3-mans, and with those times you're going to want better gear, so doing the content more will make you more money to get better gear. That being said, this content is extremely accessible to a low GP gear value, so if you are interested in learning the Theater of Blood, I think we do raids. The WDR Discord is going to be a great starting place for you. People are in there taking learners all day long, all the time. Here's the purples from top. The normal loot from top is pretty decent. Sometimes you'll get blood vials and rune ores and your chest will be like 1 mil to 2 mil somewhere in there. But the purples are definitely what we're after. The Vernic Hilt coming in at 84 mil. This is a really good price for this at this time. Basically, so many people need this. Every account needs one of these, and it is the most common drop that you get, which is great because it is a pretty thick purple. Justicer kind of sucks to get. It is pretty rare, but it's not worth all too much. And then the weapons are really what you're probably primarily after, especially if you're an Iron Man. But yeah, the Scythe coming in at 470 mil is definitely quite the juicy loot. So you might be asking yourself why Tob makes so much more money than the Chambers of Zerk, and the answer is pretty simple. You just get more purples there. Just straight up, you're gonna get more of them. Also, the weighting makes it so you get a ton of Avernic Defenders. Think like the Prayer Scrolls in Cox, but instead of 3 mil and 30 mil, you're getting 84 mil each time. Number 4. Up fourth, we have Nex. If you know me in game, you know that I am no lover of this boss, but you cannot deny that it absolutely prints GP. Wiki has Duo Nex at 14.7 mil an hour and Small Team Nex at 11.5. This is honestly absurd. Anything over 10 mil was basically unheard of until fairly recently. This is one of the bosses where all the small loot is not worth shit and you really are only after the big ticket items. Luckily, due to most players not being able to stand this dog shit content, most of the armor pieces from Nex have remained high in price. The only other barrier to small teams is going to be your gear. Unlike some of these other methods that can be completed with lesser gear, most teams will not let you on their team without a ZCB or a full Fang setup and being fairly experienced. You can send a full Armadillo setup and get on some of these small teams. It's going to take you longer, you're probably going to make less money, but it is possible. Now let's look at these rewards. A lot of triple digits out there. It looks like Torva is actually decreasing a little bit, but still holding way up there with the GE tax and the rare amount of people doing this compared to the people who want to own Torva. I feel like that's going to stay high for a long time. Nihil Shard and the Vambraces also keep themselves high, being best in slot for both spec weapons and for ranged gloves. And the Ancient Hilt, you know, it's the redheaded stepchild of the bunch, but not a bad drop nonetheless. Number 5. That's right, you guessed it, we're back at the Tombs of a Masket, and if we're going off the Wiki's money-making guide, they're saying raid level 500s, and I'm gonna have to disagree with them. Basically, what's going to make you the most money at TOA is pushing your invocation as high as you can consistently complete. Unless you're one of the most cracked gamers alive, 500s are not going to be as good money for you as something like a mid 400 raid would be. Personally, for me, the sweet spot's somewhere around 400 to 420. This makes the raid easily completable and also extremely quick. Your purple chance in this raid in a solo will be somewhere around 10%. Add on additional players in your party and that goes up, and I think it caps around 65% for the raid. So how do you want to pick your invocations? Personally, for me, what I would like to do is make sure that I can put on as many points without putting on extra time. So what's an example of this? What's a good invocation? And the one that I would have to specify here is Feeling Special. This one actually makes your raid faster and gives you 20 points. So what's an example of a bad invocation? Pathmaster. Pathmaster is a terrible invocation to put on. It is 50 points, it's going to make your raid extremely difficult, and it's going to make your raid take forever. Here we are, this is what the Unique's current price is as of making this guide, probably a week or so before you're actually able to watch it. But anyways, looking at this, the prices on all of the items has dropped dramatically. There are so many people doing the Tombs of a Masked, it is causing a lot of these items to crash, except for one of them. Every one of these raids has a flagship item, and within the Tombs of a Masked is the Shadow of Tumakin. But unlike the other raids, all of the other items from the Tombs of a Masked are not worth nearly as much. To be able to get the GP rates that are advertised, that you see on the wiki, that people talk about in other videos, you have to get the Shadow. You have to do this raid until you get that flagship item. I'm not saying that you can't make decent money without getting a Shadow. The Masori pieces, the fangs, they do add up, but you're just not going to see the insane GP per hour that's advertised unless you get that item. And I made chambers sound pretty good to myself, so I think I'm going to run a few right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe for more content, and I will see you in the next one.